How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Chafei, Daf 25 of Masechta Sotah. Friends. Daf Chafei. So, Daf Chafei, what can I tell you? So first of all, there's some background noise over here, which this background noise is kind of the best kind of noise, but the thing is, it is, because maybe it'll help me focus, but it's, I don't know, it's probably not ideal to have background noise, like any kind of noise for the recording, but hopefully it'll be okay. Anyways, I'm down in the basement again. I feel like every time I record, I'm like hiding in a different place. So now I'm in the basement. And hopefully this daf will be alright. Alright. I don't know if somebody's calling me, but we'll see. Alright. So we're going to start on daf Chofei and Aleph, 3 lines into the page. Iboilu, the Taka aska kasha. Over sadas, tzricha asroya, lafsidu ksuboso, oeno, tzricha asro. I'm also standing again. I try to avoid standing while I'm recording just because that led to some issues earlier in the year, although that may have just simply been the very old mic, but try not to move around too much. So the shaila is, if you have somebody who's overis aldas yehudis. So if you have a wife who, what does Rashi say? 3 lines into the page on Rashi. Overis aldas yehuda she'enet snua. She's not modest. Yotzev rosh hapua. She goes out with her hair all wild. V'tova bashuk mitaberes kol. She's speaking with people. All right. So for such a behavior, you can this couple can get divorced, and she would not receive her ksubah. So the shaila is ibaylu. So again, from the beginning, that's a kasha overis aldas. So if you have this wife who does these things, and for that reason they're going to get divorced, and she won't get her ksubah payment. So do you have to warn her, right? Can you just say, look, you are talking to people in the shuk, and we're getting divorced, you're not getting your ksubah? Or do you have to warn her, say, hey, if you keep on talking to people in the shuk, so then we're going to get divorced and you're not going to get your ksubah. So I assume people is other men. Came to overis adasi. Lobo yasroyo. So do we say that since she is violating the rules, so to speak, she doesn't require hasra? I assume the point is that, meaning she seems to be showing that she doesn't care about rules, and therefore she wouldn't care about this warning either. She simply doesn't care. So warning her would be pointless. It wouldn't, right? She obviously doesn't care. Or Dilma, or perhaps Tiboy Asra. No, maybe Shitaka does require Asra. Di'i Hadraba Tihadraba. Because if you say, hey, don't be doing these things anymore, and she takes it to heart, and she stops, so then all good. So do you warn her or not? Toshma, come here. Arusa v'shemeres yovam lo shosis v'lo notlis ksubeh. So we said in our Mishnah that a betrothed woman, as well as a woman who is awaiting yibum, of course we know about that from Masechta Yibum, lo shosis lo notlos ksubeh. So if they're either the arus or the yavam, if they, for whatever reason, suspect that she's having an affair, so they warn her. So it says lo shosos lo notlos ksuba. They don't drink the Sotah, and nor do they receive their ksuba. Right? So they have, right? So if they were warned and then they were secluded themselves, so they don't drink the Sotah, the bitter waters, and they also they can't remain together with the arus or the yavam, and they don't receive a ksuba. So we say that they don't drink the bitter waters, but there is the concept of kinui. There is the concept. I think we even saw. Did we even see this the other day? Yeah, we saw this yesterday. That while they do not drink the bitter waters, there is a concept of kinui, of warning, essentially, when it for them. So lemai, what are they being warned about? They're not drinking the Sotah. So lav sida ksubaso. Is it not that it's on account of the warning that they do not receive their ksubah, when they can't remain together anymore, right? Meaning, if you have a betrothed woman and her arus, right, who she's engaged to, warns her not to be with a certain fellow, and she secludes herself with a fellow. So, what was the benefit of the warning? It must be to so that now they can't remain together because she secluded herself with that fellow after the warning, and now she doesn't get her ksuba on account of the warning, which would imply that in the situation of overes aldas as well, he would have to warn her in order for her to lose her ksuba. Amar Abaye lo. Abaye says not necessarily. The warning in the context of, why am I unable to see? Excuse me 1 second. I'm going to try turning off this light, see if that makes a difference. It looks like shining in my eyes. So maybe that's better. So it says Abaye, or maybe my eyes just, yeah, I feel like I might be coming down with something. Whatever. Yeah, I might be coming down with something. I feel like I'm like in another world. Alright, so Amar Abaye, or maybe it's just because like other reasons. Okay. Amar Abaye lo also olive. So Abaye says nisht, the point of the warning when it comes to the Sotah is to make her usher upon him, right? On account of the warning, right? He warned her and she secluded herself with this fellow. Now they can't be together anymore. That's what the warning accomplishes. Rav Papa Omer la'ashkose kishehi nisua. Rav Papa says that the significance of the warning is, well, if they're engaged and he warns her, not to be secluded with a certain fellow, and okay, so she doesn't, and then they get married, but then she secludes herself with this fellow. So because there was a warning while they were engaged, that same warning works for when she subsequently secludes herself with the fellow after they're married, then she'll drink the Sotah. Okay, fine. Keditanya, as we learn in a Brisa, that if you have a betrothed woman and her arus warns her, don't be with a certain fellow, so if she secludes herself with that fellow, she does not drink the Sotah, right? Again, in mekanan larusa lashkosa kshi arusa, that the warning would not work for an arusa to drink the bitter waters while she's still in arusa. Avo mekanan larusa lashkosa kshi nesua. But the kinoi that happened during the betrothal period would be effective in that if she then has an affair with this fellow once they're married, so then she would drink the Sotah, she would drink the bitter waters at that point. So we see that both Abaye and Rav Papa offer explanations when it comes to kinui and stira of or really the kinui of an arusa and a shemeres yavam, that would not be lafsidik subasa. It could be either the osir olav, or so that she would drink the bitter waters if she has an affair once they're married. But it's not about the ksuba. Omar Rave Toshma says, Rave, come in here. Almone lekoyin gadol. We said in our Mishnah that if you have a widow who marries the high priest, now widow is not allowed to marry a high priest. Grusha v'achlutza lekoyin hedget. Or if you have somebody's knocking up there. Or if you have alright. Or if you have a divorcee or a chalutzi married to a kohen hedget, mamzeres and nesina l'Yisrael. If you have a mamzeres and nesina married to Yisrael, bas Yisrael, mamzer l'nosin. These are all relationships that are forbidden relationships. So in all of these cases, lo shosis velo nodlis ksube. So we said in our Mishnah that they don't drink the bitter waters, and they also do not receive their ksubah. So Mishnah udulo shasyo al kanuye mekanilu. So we say, okay, they don't drink the bitter waters, but there is nonetheless warning when it comes to them. So if you have a grusha v'achlutz l'kohen hedget, for example, he could still, right? So he's not allowed to marry her, right? So she's already forbidden to him. He's not allowed to marry her, but he did. And then he warns her, don't be with a certain fellow, and she secludes herself with that fellow. Now, she's not going to drink the Sotah, as we just said, right? Lo shosos lo nodlis ksube. So ulamai. So what's the point of warning her if it's not for drinking the bitter waters? Ilo so no lo asir and v'kaimer. Now, if you're going to say like Abaye had said earlier by Narusa and Shemeres Yavam that it's on account of the warning she becomes usher to him, but she's already usher to him. It's a grusha v'achlut to the kohen edjot, right? Almanu the kohen gadol, etc. Elalab lafsidin ksubason. Rather, it must be that the warning, the point of is effective. The warning is effective to make them lose their ksube. Amar of Yehudim Diskarta lo. So Yehudim Diskarta no. Lo so the boel kiba'al. No, the point of the warning is that it makes her forbidden to the boel like the baal, right? So meaning, yes, in Almana the Kohen Gadol, for example, it's already not allowed, right? Kohen Gadol is not allowed to marry an Almana. So clearly, when he's warning her not to be with a certain fellow, it's not to then make her usher to him if she is secluded, right? Meaning to him, right? The Kohen Gadol is not warning her, don't be with this other fellow. And then if she is with this other fellow, now the Kohen Gadol and the Almana are not allowed to be with each other. They were never allowed to be with each other in the first place. And Almana is not allowed to be with the Kohen Gadol. But one of the halachas as we're about to quote, and we're going to see, I think in another 2 days, that one of the halachas of Sotah, maybe we've seen it in the past also earlier, that just like this fellow who she has an affair with or secludes herself with, becomes, just like the wife becomes forbidden to her husband, that once she secludes herself with this other person, she's no longer allowed to be with her husband until she drinks the bitter waters and we figure out what happened. Now, just like she's forbidden to her husband, she's also forbidden to the person who she was suspected of being with, right? And unless she drinks the water, since she can't be with her husband, they can't stay together. And also, she wouldn't be able to marry this other fellow either. So that's what the warning accomplishes. So yes, the widow was already forbidden to the Kohen Gadol, in Achinami. But the point of warning is that it now makes her forbidden to this other fellow who she's suspected of having an affair with. She would be forbidden to him as well. The Tananas, we learn in the Mishnah, that just like a Sotah becomes forbidden to her husband, she's also not allowed, but she also has to stay away from this other fellow, the adulterer, the suspected adulterer. Amar B'chanina Misur, says B'chanina Misur, Tashma, come here. Ve'elu shebezdin mekanin loin. Then the following examples, Bezdin, they warn for the husband. If the husband doesn't warn, Bezdin warns for him. Mishin Escharish Baila. For example, if the husband became a cherish, right, a deaf fellow, and he's not considered somebody who has a proper intellect, or nishtat, or he became a foolish somehow, or shoyachovish b'beis asurin, or he just wasn't around because he was in jail. So in those cases, Bezdin would warn this wife for the husband because the husband's unable to warn her himself. If she's spending too much time with a certain fellow. Now, the point is not to make her drink, right? Because only the husband can have her drink the bitter waters, not Bezdin. But what the warning accomplishes is to make her lose her ksubeh, so that if Bezdin warns her and then she secludes herself with the fellow, and she can't drink the bitter waters because it would be, right, the husband would have to warn her and take her to Yerushalayim and all that stuff. So she doesn't drink the bitter waters, but she does lose her ksubeh, shmamina, bo yasra shmamina. So we see that the kinui of a Sotah works to make her lose her ksubeh. And also, if we apply that back to the original question of Overes Adas, so in that case also, to make this woman lose her ksubeh, her husband would have to warn her, hey, don't do that anymore. But if he doesn't warn her, so then she would not lose her ksubeh. So how come the other examples where we tried to learn it out from Arusa, Shomeres Yavam, all those other examples, why didn't those teachers learn it out from, why didn't those rabbis learn it out from this example, from when Bezdin warns on account, right, for the husband? Well, because Dilma Shiny Awesome, because it could be that when Bezdin has to warn for the husband, that's not a comparable case. Delays law aims to debal klal. I might think that specifically in the case of when the husband's in jail for example, and therefore he's and now so he's not around, and his wife is doing these things that were not considered acceptable. So Beis Din steps in and warns her on behalf of the husband. But maybe only in that case Beis Din would have to. I'm sorry, if the husband's in jail and then the wife is now spending too much time with another fellow, so Beis Din steps in and warns her only because the husband is not around and there's no aim to the baal, there's no fear of her husband of getting caught or whatever it might be. So because of that, that's why she needs the warning, because without the warning, she wouldn't, she would continue doing it. But in the first case of the Overes Hadas, where the husband is around, and even so, she doesn't seem to care, and she's doing whatever she's doing, so then maybe you wouldn't need a warning, because she's kind of already showing disregard and not caring about the husband anyways. So that is why those other rabbis didn't want to learn it out from when Beis Din steps in, because maybe Beis Din needs to step in and warn her only because otherwise she doesn't have sort of the deterrence. So therefore you need that warning to create deterrence. But in the other case, they would argue that maybe you wouldn't need a warning to make her lose the ksubah, because she's already shown that she doesn't care. Anyways, so now fact the Gemara. Ibaylu de asakasha overes adas v'rotza bal lekaimo mekaimo ena mekaimo. So if you have you have this wife who we were talking about at the beginning of the daf today, that she's behaving in a way that was considered inappropriate, and therefore we said that that's grounds for divorce and she would not receive her ksubah. So what if her husband doesn't care and he wants to remain married to her? Can he? So again, in this case of Overes Hadas, but her husband doesn't care and he wants to stay married. Mekaimo ena mekaimo. Can they stay married or not? Do we say that it's dependent on the husband? If he's not okay with that, so beseder, they can get divorced and she won't receive her ksubah. But if he doesn't really care, so then who cares? Oh, Dilma came into kapid. Or do we say that, well, since we assume that most husbands would care, so then we assume that all husbands care, and even if he doesn't, that's an exception to the rule and it won't make a difference. Tashma coming here. So as we mentioned a few minutes ago, these are examples where Beis Din would step in and do a kinui, would warn a wife on behalf of the husband if she was spending too much time with another fellow. Mishin is charish baila, if he became a cherish, a deaf person, who we assume also doesn't have has limited mental capacity. Honishtater, he somehow became foolish, or he was in jail. Now, if you're going to say that, look, if the husband doesn't care, so then who cares, and they could stay together, well then, so meaning if we're saying that in the case of Overes Hadas, the husband, it's entirely up to the husband, and if he doesn't care, so then why should we? But then how do you understand this but then how do you understand when we say that Beis Din can warn a wife when the husband is not around, but if you say that if he doesn't care, then who cares? Then how can Beis Din step in? Maybe he doesn't care. Why are they stepping in? So says the Gemara, look, so we say, look, we can the assumption that they're working with is that he would care, and because they assume that he would care, so then that is why they're warning her for him. If he didn't care, okay, so then beseder, then it's irrelevant. Meaning, then okay, so they warned him assuming that he would care. If he didn't care, okay, so then forget about their warning. The warning isn't effective if he doesn't care. But they warned her assuming that he probably would care. Yibaylu, they asked the kasha, Baal shem mochel al kinuyo mochel oeno mochel. So now the Gemara asks, what if you have a fellow and he warned his wife, don't be with a certain fellow. So there was the kinui. And then afterwards he's thinking, you know what? Forget it. I don't want to go down this route. Forget about this kinui. I'm mochel. I don't care. Pretend like I never warned. So do we say, look, kinui is entirely up to the husband, and if he's saying, look, pretend like I never said anything, I want to undo it, so it's undone. Or do we say that no, once it's done, it's done. Once he warns her, don't seclude yourself with a certain fellow, you can't undo it. It's done. He's already said it. She's been warned, and that's that. Tashma, come in here. Ve'elu shebezdin mikanin lohen. In the following examples, I think I hear the dryer starting to push itself, shtickle. The dryer's been slowing down a little bit. We've had a lot of drying. Okay. Ve'elu shebezdin mikanin lohen. In the following examples, Bezdin will warn the wife on account of the husband, right, on behalf of the husband. Mishin is charish baila, if he became a cherish, or nishtater, he became foolish, or he was in jail. And if you say that a husband can simply be mochel on his warning, that he could always say, look, you know what, I take it back. Where am I? Avdinon midi dasi bal mochile. So why would Bezdin step in and warn her if the husband can always just say, "Oh, forget about it. I would not have done that, and I don't want you to do it either." So stoma de milsa or the maskim al das Bezdin. So the reason why Bezdin can step in and be mekane her is because we assume that in most examples a fellow is cool with if the Bezdin wants to do something. If the Bezdin, wants to be mekane her because they noticed that she was being spending too much time with another fellow. So generally the assumption was that the husband would be in line with the decision and actions of the Bezdin. But if he wasn't, so you can undo it. Toshma. Come here. We've learned in the past that the husband takes his wife to Yerushalayim, and that's where she drinks the bitter waters. So, and we say that on the way to Jerusalem, Bezdin would provide, the local Bezdin would provide 2 Talmidei Chachamim, so that they could make sure, or we're assuming what it means, is so that they can make sure that he's not going to sleep with her on the way, and they are there to prevent this from happening. However, but if you say that a husband can simply undo his kinui, so lichale likinuya v'livo. So who cares? What meaning? If you say that a husband can always just undo his kinui, so we're talking about a fellow who warned his wife, don't be with a certain other fellow. She secluded herself with that fellow. Now they're on their way to Jerusalem. We now have to send 2 Talmidei Chachamim. Who's paying for these 2 Talmidei Chachamim? I don't know. But now we have to send these 2 Talmidei Chachamim to, escort the couple on the way to make sure that they don't have bia on the way. But if you say that a husband can simply just undo his kinoi, so why do you need these 2 Talmidei Chachamim? Just let him be mochel on his kinoi and let them sleep with each other. Who cares? Rather, it must mean that he can't do that. And that's why we need the Talmidei Chachamim to prevent him from doing that, to which the Gemara answers actually fakert. No, ma'ishna Talmidei Chachamim di gemire. No, fakert. Why can't you just send 2 Toms, Dicks, and Harrys? Why do you have to send 2 Talmidei Chachamim? Davka for this point, the iboy limivol, you send 2 Talmidei Chachamim who know the halachas, so that in the event that they want to have beer, or I guess technically he wants to have beer. So Amalesh, they say to him, look, the halacha is achel kinui eichu v'ala. So just be mochel your kinui, and then you can have beer. So maybe that's davka, right? Maybe that's davka approved that he can be mochel, and the role of the Talmidei Chachamim is to, say, look, if you can't resist and you have to have bia, so be mochel on your kinoi first. Tashmad Amar Rabbi Yosha, says Rabbi Yosha, Shlosha Dvarim Sochli Zeira Mianchi Yerushalayim, that there are three things that Zeira from the men of Jerusalem told me, says Rabbi Yosha. Baal Shemachal al Kinuyo Machol, that if a husband says, look, I want to be mochel on my warning, pretend like I never said anything, it's machul, okay? V'zaken mamre, shatu bezdin limchol lo mochalim lo. And if you have a zaken mamre, you can tell me what a zaken mamre is. A fellow who Talmud Chacham, I think a rabbi, a rov, who holds differently than the Sanhedrin, and he's in action. He won't give in, but you have to do like you have to follow the Sanhedrin. So he was strangling to death. But Shirotzu Bezdin Limcholo, but if Bezdin wants to have, take it easy on him, maybe he's a big Talmud Chacham, Mochal, they can do that. Uven Sora Umore, right, they could say, okay, we're not going to strangle him to death. Uven Sora Umore, Shirotzu Aviv Imo Limcholo, and if I've been Sora Umore, we're going to learn all about this stuff in Masechta Sanhedrin, which is kind of far away. It's probably about 2 years away. But in terms of books, it's not that far away. We have Gittin Kiddushin, Babakam Bab Mitzvah Bab Basra, and then is it already Sanhedrin right after that? I'm not sure. So if you have Ben Sora Umora, this is a young fellow, a young whippersnapper who's being a shtickle nudnik, so we kill him. But it's in very specific cases. He has to be exactly a certain age. Okay. Eat exactly a certain amount of meat and wine. Okay. And all sorts of things that make it very difficult and improbable for this thing to happen. And his parents want to say, you know what? He'll be okay. We don't want to kill him. Mochal lo, so we can spare him. And says Rabbi Yoshia that when I came to my colleagues in the south, again, what's in the south? They were on board with me for the Baal Shemachal Kinuyo Machol and the Metzora Umora, but not by the Zaken Mamre Shelo Yirbu Machlokes B'Yisrael. Because in order to, we don't want to have machlokas in Israel. Meaning, they were cool with a Baal Shemachal Kinuyo Machol and a Ben Sora Umora that the parents want to leave him alone, they could leave him alone. But if Bezdin wants to spare the Zaken Mamre, no, we have to follow the halacha, which is that we strangle him to death, because we don't want a situation where there's machlokes b'yisrael. Which is very interesting. It's very interesting. I think that they say until Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai there wasn't really machlokes, I think. So I guess, especially when you have an oral tradition that needs to be preserved, you don't want to have machlokes or uncertainty there. So shelo yarbu machlokes b'yisrael, they have to take a pretty severe stance there. Shmamina, Baal Shemachal Kinuyo Machol Shmamina. So we see that Baal Shemachal Kinuyo Machol. Plige ba Rav Acha v'Ravina. But now we see machlokes Rav Acha and Ravina about until what point can the husband say, pretend like I didn't say anything. Chad Omar, one opinion is Kodim Stira Machul, Lacher Stira Eno Machul. One opinion is that, look, if he warns her, says, I don't want you to be with so-and-so, he can take that back and pretend like he never said anything, only up until the point that she secluded herself with the fellow. Once already there's Stira, you can't take it back anymore. V'chad Omar La'achar Stira Nami Machul. The other opinion is that no, even after she secludes herself with this other fellow, he could still say, you know what, let's just pretend like none of this ever happened. I never warned you, you never secluded yourself, whatever. Umistavra Kimanda Omar Eino Machul. And it makes sense like the opinion that says that once she secludes herself with this fellow, he can no longer be mochel. Mimai, how come? Midika mehadre Rabban Rabbi Yossi. Based on the rabbi's response to Rabbi Yossi that we had seen already, I don't know how long ago, maybe even a few weeks ago. The Tanis we learned in a Braise, Rabbi Yossi, Mrs. Rabbi Yossi, Baila Nemon Oleo Mikal V'chomer. Right, that Rabbi Yossi had said that when the husband and the wife are going to Jerusalem to drink the bitter waters, you don't need the two Talmidei Chachamim to accompany them. You can trust the husband. How come? Umanida sheibikaris Baila Nemon Oleo. A husband and wife can sleep together in the same house, even though it's a chiyuv karis. So certainly, if he's trusted by a chiyuv karis, Sotah she belav lo kol sheken. Certainly you can trust him to hold himself back when it's just a lav. So Amrulo, to which the rabbi said to him, punkt fakert, lo imamad benida sheken yesh la heter, tomar besotah shein la heter. By a nida he's trusted because look, you just wait until she's no longer a nida and then you can be with her. So therefore he can hold himself back because just wait and then just be patient. But when it comes to Sotah, if she's guilty, they're never, if she had an affair, so they're never going to be able to be with each other anymore. Therefore, because there's no way for them to ever be together anymore potentially, so that is why we can't trust him and he might not be able to hold himself back. But if you say that even after stira, he could still say, you know what, let's just pretend like this never happened. So mishkachas lo diyesh lo heter di boy machli kinuya uvoyel. But if after the stira, which is when this is, right, meaning he had warned her, don't be with so-and-so, she did seclude herself with so-and-so, and therefore that's why they're now on the way to Jerusalem. So it's after stira. And if you say that even after stira, it could still be mochel, so then why would the rabbis respond to Rabbi Yossi and say that, well, Sotah is different because he might not ever be able to be with her ever again? What do you mean? He could always just be mochel. So ela shmamino lachar stira eino mochel shmamino. So rather it must be that after the stira, after she secludes herself with the fellow, he can no longer be mochel. And that is why once they're on their way to Jerusalem to drink the bitter waters, there's concern that since he may never be able to sleep with her ever again, he may not be able to hold himself back. Okay. Mesu bailein adshele shasu bezdin beishame v'chule. Oh, so if the husband dies before his wife gets to drink the mei sotah, so she hasn't yet drunk. She hasn't drunken. She hasn't yet drunk the bitter waters yet, and the husband dies. So at this point, she's not going to drink the bitter waters anymore because you only drink the bitter waters if the husband's alive. So Beis Shammai says that okay, so she doesn't drink the bitter waters, but she does receive she can collect her ksubah. Beis Hillel says no, she cannot collect her ksubah. She's not going to drink the bitter waters because he's dead, so she cannot receive the ksubah. Ma'ika miflegei, what's the basis of the machlokas? So Beis Shammai savish tar omer legavos k'kobidomi. Well, Beis Shammai holds, their opinion is that when you have a document that is able to be collected, so we treat it as if it's already collected. So meaning, you have this wife who's got in her possession this ksuba. Ksuba is a document that says that she's owed money. So therefore, somebody who's in possession of a document, so it's as if the document is already collected. So here she has a valid document, this ksuba, right, that says that she's owed money. So therefore, the husband dies, and now the estate of the husband is saying to the wife, we don't want to pay you the value of the ksuba, but shtar omer the gabos, she's got in her hands a document, a valid document, and it's kegabidom. It's as if it's already collected and it's in her possession, and therefore, if they want, right, there's the concept of amotzi mechaveru olav harai. If you want to take something away from somebody, you have to prove that you're right. And if she's in possession of this document, and we say, and we say that this document, it's as though it's already been collected, so that means it's as though the money that she's owed is already in her possession. And if the estate of the husband want to take that away from her, they would have to bring a proof that she actually had an affair. And short of that, they would not be able to take it away, and therefore she can collect her ksuba. Whereas Beis Hillel savri shtar omer legabos lav kegabidami. Whereas Beis Hillel hold fakert that a document that is able to be collected is not considered as if it's already collected, and therefore the husband died. We don't know, did she have an affair? Didn't she have an affair? Is she entitled to the ksuba? Is she not entitled to the ksuba? We don't know. And just, sure, she's got a document, but it's not as though it's already been collected, which means that the money is still considered to be in the possession of the estate. And therefore, if she wants to collect the money, she's going to have to bring the proof and prove that she did not have an affair. And as long as she doesn't do that, so then she cannot collect the ksuba. Okay, fine. I think that we'll hold it over here because... we'll hold it over here. Because even though we're like literally on the first line of Chafei Amud Beis, but because the entirety of Chafei Amud Beis is like 10 lines or less, and it doesn't really stop until pretty far down on Chavav Amud Aleph. So I think that we will just pick up from here tomorrow, friends. That was Daf Chafei of Masechta Sotah. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.